Please stop wasting your time and energy. In this video, I'm going to outline my top 3 vocal health myths so you can ignore them and focus your energy on things that actually matter. Hello and welcome to the Vocal Pro Health Hub, the destination for singers and other voice professionals wanting top-notch health advice to maximize their vocal performance and longevity. In this video, I want to outline my top 3 vocal health myths. As many of you are aware, the world of singing, vocal professionals, vocal health is riddled with half-truths and hand-me-down information that keeps getting proliferated in spite of the evidence against it. So in this video, I want to outline what I consider to be my top 3, and this is sort of based on a combination of the ones I find to be the most prolific, the ones that come up time after time after time, combined with the ones I personally find to be the most annoying, simply because when I've looked into them, there seems to be the least evidence to support them. So I'm going to give these vocal health myths in ascending order, 3, 2, 1, so stick around for the last one, the one I find to be the most important. So, vocal health myth number 1, milk and other dairy products create mucus. Now, just to hit the nail on the head, this one is absolutely not true. Milk doesn't create mucus in the throat or anywhere else in the body. Now, milk is an emulsion, which means it's fat droplets suspended in a liquid form, which gives it a certain thickness, stickiness, viscosity, which may give some singers and vocal professionals a slightly transient feeling of thickness, glugginess, stickiness in the throat. So to illustrate this, if you take a glass of water, tip it to the side and then tip it back, you'll get very, very little residue of the water remaining on the glass. However, if you fill that same glass with milk, tip it to the side and then tip it back, you'll see a lot more residue of the milk remaining on the side of the glass for some period of time. The idea is similar in the throat, so that viscosity, that stickiness, that heaviness of the emulsion may leave a transient feeling of viscosity, stickiness, glugginess in the throat of some singers and other vocal professionals. However, it's really important to note that that will go away with just the passing of time, or if you need it to go away more quickly, you can simply drink a glass of water and it'll likely resolve itself. But the important takeaway point is that milk and other dairy products do not create mucus. And in fact, direct investigation into this phenomenon has shown that people who complain of this sensation of mucusiness and glugginess, stickiness in the throat after drinking dairy milk also complain of a similar sensation when drinking dairy alternative milk drinks, things like oat milk and soy milk. So if you happen to order a soy milk latte because you have to sing later and you don't want to be mucusy, that's absolutely fine. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but please recognize that you're not necessarily doing anything physiologically beneficial for your vocal health, and any perceived benefit you're experiencing is likely psychosomatic. Number 2 of my top 3 vocal health myths: visible abs or six-packs are bad for your voice. Now, fortunately, more modern styles of vocal training, pop music and musical theatre and so forth, are fortunately becoming a bit more cluey to the reality that this is in fact a myth. However, the world that I come from, classical music and opera, in this world, people love to repeat this myth ad nauseum. So to be completely honest, when I've looked into this myth, it really seems to be proliferated by some singing teachers who haven't necessarily studied exercise or exercise physiology and don't have any particular interest or experience with exercise themselves. Now, that's absolutely fine. I have zero interest in forcing people to study things they're not interested in, and I see no reason why a singing teacher would need to have a great knowledge of exercise or physiology or the interaction between them in order to get the most from their students. But I would add that it is completely inessential to continue to repeat this idea that visible abs or a visible six-pack is bad for vocal production. There simply isn't evidence to justify the claim, and I promise you can continue to be a wonderful singing teacher and get the most from your students without proliferating this myth. So the visibility of the rectus abdominis, the six-pack, the abs, is predominantly a function of the amount of body fat present around the midsection. Now yes, it is possible to thicken the musculature of the midsection through intensive training, However, generally speaking, the higher the body fat of the midsection, the less likely you are to see the abdominal muscles, and the lower the body fat, the more likely you are to see the abdominal muscles. It's really that simple. But the important takeaway point is the ability to be able to see that muscle, so the visibility of the rectus abdominis, gives you no information about its functionality, which means it gives you no information about how tight and rigid or flexible and supple that musculature is. So a visible six-pack is just as likely to be rigid or flexible as a six-pack that is covered in a layer of adipose tissue. Now, there are some behaviors and exercises that some people tend to engage in when they are actively seeking a six-pack muscle or a visible set of abs that might potentially not be the best idea if you are a vocal professional. Now, I am going to go into the nuance of some of those in a separate video. I think it's quite important to cover. However, the take-home point for today is the ability to see abs, the visibility of the six-pack, tells you nothing about vocal quality or health. So should you get a six-pack? It's entirely up to you. I wish you the best. I used to have one before I had children. Now I don't. Yes, I liked having a six-pack, but I prefer my children. And I do admit, I personally find the current cultural obsession with visible six-packs a little silly. However, in the context of vocal health, the next time you hear someone perpetuate this myth, next time you hear someone say, oh, having a visible six-pack is bad for your voice, ask them why and see if they can give you a good evidence-based answer. Now, everything I put in these videos is an offer, not a mandate, and I'm always up for open conversation. So please, if you hear a good reason as to why visible six-pack is bad for your voice, or perhaps you have a reason yourself, please put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the issue. And finally, myth number 3, thank you for sticking around for my favorite one. Caffeine dehydrates your voice. This is the one I just wish would go away. However, every time I go into social media or on the internet, it seems that every singing teacher with a blog or an Instagram account seems to regurgitate this information over and over again, and it just won't go away. Caffeine is a mild diuretic, which means it has the potential to slightly increase your volume of urine output. However, it's really important to note that direct investigation into this idea has shown that when you are consuming a caffeine-containing drink, like a cup of tea, cup of coffee, can of Coke, whatever it is, the amount of fluid you are consuming in that drink more than compensates for the potential diuretic effect. So actually, for most caffeine-containing drinks of a certain volume, it's actually going to have a systemic hydrating effect on the body. The slight exception to this rule might be dense caffeine-containing drinks. Here I'm talking about things like gas station energy bottles containing caffeine, or perhaps a really strong double espresso or something like that. However, if you're concerned about this, simply do what the Italians do and have your double espresso with a glass of water, no problem. If you are still concerned about the issue of caffeine, and I know a lot of singers and vocal professionals are, please recognize that direct investigation into this idea has shown that even very high levels of caffeine consumption, something like 6 to 10 cups of coffee daily, has shown very little to no effect on vocal functioning and health. And in fact, a systematic review, which is a study of studies, has just been released in the Journal of Voice, stating that the notion that caffeine dehydrates the voice cannot be supported empirically, as the evidence is deemed unreliable and no firm conclusions can be elicited to guide clinical practice. So please, I plead to you for my birthday this year, if you are someone who believes this myth, or if you are someone who perpetuates this myth, no disrespect, I love you all the same. Please just let it go. Free yourself from the shackles of this unhelpful myth. For those of you who still need a bit more convincing, or perhaps you're just a nerd like me for some of this stuff, I am going to be making different separate videos about these 3 myths and others, outlining some of the science behind them for a bit more in-depth understanding. So keep an eye out for those. And in my next videos, I'm going to be explaining why I think vocal myths become so prevalent and ubiquitous, and also explaining why I think following them may be damaging to your vocal health. I hope you found that information useful. Remember, your body is your instrument. Why not treat it like a Stradivarius? If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the Vocal Pro Health Hub for future videos and more valuable content. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comments below. I'm here to guide and support you on your journey to vocal health and longevity. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.